Okay, everybody, good morning. We're gonna let it, our participants are populating, so we're gonna wait a couple minutes and then we'll get going since we have a full program for you today. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started so that we can take advantage of the hour. Good morning, everybody. My name is Irene Gaglione, and I'm the president of Into Architecture. Also, I am here today as the chairman of the A4LE Southern Region Foundation. The foundation had the opportunity this year to sponsor the exhibit of school architecture in Texas, and we're very excited to have this new partnership with the Texas Association of School Administrators and School Boards, and this is something that is going to continue in the future. You will be receiving, as a matter of fact, any of you firms or districts that participate, the new criteria will be coming out here in about a week. And you'll see some of the input and feedback from the A4LE participants into the process. Today, as you go through, we're going to do this webinar. I think we have a video of about 25 minutes and a presentation of 25 minutes as well. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat, and I will be trolling this chat through the presentation. The presenters also may stop the presentation to take questions, so just make sure that you're putting those questions in the chat as you go through. Today, again, we have an exciting program this morning, and I'm going to introduce the project. This is Thompson Elementary School, which won, again, the Caudell Award. One of the things that the jurors found about the school was how perfectly linked the educational outcomes were to the building and how the building totally responded to them. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that today. Our presenters today are, the first one is Tim McClure. Tim McClure is the Assistant Superintendent for Facilities at Northwest ISD. He joined the district in 2015 and has helped lead efforts to reimagine elementary education through facility design. Tim is an architect with experience in educational design, residential, and small commercial projects. He currently serves as Southern Director of A4LE. Amy Howell is the inaugural principal at Lance Thompson Elementary School. She has spent the last 20 years in service to the Northwest ISD community. Amy's vision for learning and how to use the space to its full potential has helped make Lance Thompson an incredibly successful project. And our last presenter is Conrad Judd. Conrad is the Chief Design Officer at Huckabee. He is an award-winning architect who has dedicated his career to educational design. Please help me welcome everybody. And Conrad, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Well, thank you, everyone. We are greatly privileged to get to share this unique school with you. I do want to quickly share a few things about Huckabee. We are an architectural firm that is dedicated to educational design only, exclusively. We were established almost 54 years ago, and we have 6 offices across the state of Texas, more than 200 employees. We have a full A&E service. We're a full A&E service firm, and we are very fortunate that we are the top A&E firm in the state of Texas that's solely dedicated to education. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about Northwest for those of you who don't know who we are, where we are. We are just north of Fort Worth. We're 234 square miles. We actually have 29 schools currently, and we serve a little over almost 26,000 students now. We add about 1,000 students each year to our district. We are very fast growth. We're the 8th fastest growing school district in the state of Texas. Of that 234 square miles, we're only about 27% built out right now. So it's traditionally a rural farming and ranching community, but that is quickly being replaced with housing developments. When I got here 6 years ago, we were tracking about 45 housing developments. Today, it's 111 different housing developments. And those are anywhere from 800 to 1,000 homes, upwards to 10,000 homes for development. So 45,000 future homes coming to our area. And so we do about a school a year, which equates, and have done that for 20 years, which equates to, this is the shocking stat that everybody's jaw drops, is for the last 20 years, $1.3 million a week in construction is what we've averaged. So quite a bit of work going on and growth that we're having to keep up with up here in the North Texas region. So we were very excited to hear that we had been considered and won the Caudell class, part of the Caudell class for this last year. Just wanted to thank the members of the jury for that recognition, thank our architect for helping us come together with design. We're going to talk about how that came together here in the next few slides. But we got 5 of the 6 stars of distinction. You see them at the top there. The only one we didn't get was community, and I kind of take exception to that, but that's okay. I get it. We can't be perfect, but it was, we really were community centered with the design and with the results of the design. And I know Amy's going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. The project objectives, really, we have them listed there, but we wanted the planning to be intentional, and it was very much centered around having a lot of involvement in that process. We wanted spaces with no boundaries. We wanted spaces to bleed into each other. We wanted areas that normally wouldn't get used to get used. And so we'll highlight those as we go through this presentation. Quickly, as we moved in, this campus is in a Hillwood design community, and the name of the community is Harvest. And so Harvest started bringing about some ideas of obviously the ranching community and the pathway of the school. But more importantly, it kind of spawned this discussion around biophilic design and the impact of what that does in a learning environment, not only from a health and wellness. Sorry, my speaker in my office is going off. Don't know what that was about. Sorry about that. But biophilic design and its importance in the educational environment and just the overall health and wellness. And so we'll talk to that as well. And then we just wanted to maximize the environment to create an exceptional learning culture and be able to see that learning on display as you went through the campus. So as we moved into how this progressed, we had obviously, like most school districts, had a committee, a design committee is made up of superintendent, cabinet members, executive directors, some principals and some teachers. But we went beyond that in the visioning part. We did student surveys. We got engagement from all grade levels throughout our district. Actually, at the time we had, I think it was, let's see, 17 elementaries on the ground. And we engaged every one of those elementary campuses in some way, shape, or form, whether that was going there and doing student interviews, whether that was the students doing a design competition, what the School of the Future was, or sitting down with teachers in their PLC moments and trying to really figure out how they work that. We did project tours, teacher interviews, multiple charrettes. So this was quite an extensive timeline, community presentations, got community feedback, but quite a timeline as we went through this process. Ultimately, leading to the schematic and the charrette, and I'll let Conrad talk a little bit about that.
Well, I will say that in the beginnings of this, it was made clear to us this was the new precedent. This was going to be the newest version of elementary school for the district. And so that created a great opportunity to really step back and say, we're not going to hold anything that's necessarily already there. We're going to reimagine all that could be. And what does that look like for Northwest in the future for many years to come? So these diagrams are expressing the information we gathered from students, the conversations we had from administrators, teachers, and so forth, that really were blowing up the original ideas of space and how you deliver education within certain spaces. So we started from scratch, and it had some great, really deep dives of diversity. And as you might imagine, like typical, this was 3 times the size of the building when we started, but then obviously got that within reason. So we also had a lot of discussion simultaneously about this idea behind environment and culture and setting, and using imagery to discuss what they were wanting to achieve in terms of that environment and how it could really be a very rich, diverse, flexible, adaptable type of space. I'll share a little bit about heritage, then I'll have Amy share a little bit about it, because as architects, we really wanted to understand our context. Tim already mentioned that this is a very unique development and was pertaining to what was already there within this Northwest Argyle region of a agrarian rural area. But this community has a very quaint, unique setting in terms of how they have their own gardens and so forth, and a really nice amenity center. So we wanted to make sure the architecture was playing well with that, but that it was a true neighborhood school, a true community school in terms of how we responded, siting the building and dealing with the architectural character. And we'll speak a little bit to that. But Amy, you want to speak to what this has done for your campus?
Absolutely. So like Conrad said, we are in Harvest, which is a Hillwood property. It is not the only community that we serve. So as much as we are blended into the subdivision that we are in, we also are really adamant about making sure all of the communities that do come to our school are represented as well. And this building is perfect for that. So we have parents that are able to walk their kids, that some of them park down at one of the amenity centers and walk their kids to school every day, even though they live in another subdivision. Tim was real specific when they placed the building on the site. So you can even look at, if you look at an overview and see how long our entry drive in, parents have commented on how smart that was, so that we're not blocking traffic in the community. So we're not impacting emergency vehicles getting in. So it's like even those little things that people don't necessarily think about were thought about in this design. When you're walking around the building, you can see elements of different things that have to do with the communities around us, the farming element. This used to be the Thompson farm and the Fott farm. And so you can see those biophilic design elements throughout the whole building, the trees in the library, the mural down the amp hall that shows the life cycle of a tree. And the kids look at it and they talk about it. That's one of the places they spend time waiting in line to go to a restroom, go into the cafeteria, go into AMP. And so that's something that they can talk about. That's an academic value to it. They like to talk about what kind of tree it is. So that's always entertaining to hear the different types of trees that they think it is. One of the things we really like about being in this community is we do joint events. So if the subdivision's having an event on a night, we try not to do something that night. And then if we have an event on a night, we partner with the community and we open it up. We have kids that go to the other school district across the subdivision that come to our evening events. We had a star night that was off of our library. We had the garage door open and we had hot dogs and things. They were doing research inside and all these things in and out of the building. You couldn't tell where one event ended and one started. And we had kids from all over the community come in. It was a really fun event. So this building really lends to that blended idea of community and school, making it kind of one thing.
So I'll speak to a little bit to the site plan. This is a 15.5 acre site. And like Amy had alluded, this was a site that was donated by a former district educator, board member, local resident, Thompson family. And it is the first school within this development. It's a true neighborhood. It's truly surrounded completely all sides by homes, residences. And so again, the architectural character was important, but Amy mentioned, and I know it was, like she said, it was important to Tim and the neighborhood, that we have a lot of stacking, a long drive. So we took every bit we could to stack the entire long dimension of the site. Centered the building in the place in the center to maximize the play area on all sides. Afforded us the ample parking, ample drop off for parent and bus. We in early planning stages talked about the importance of outdoor space, play, and instruction, and the importance of being able to have that readily available in the appropriate spaces in terms of hard surface play outside of the gym and field play outside of the gym, and then the courtyard space for instruction and socialization and development in that area as well. So that's the overall site plan layout, 2-story school. We'll go to the first floor plan. What's so important to know and understanding about the concept is that we quickly gravitated towards an idea of a student commons. And I know it's a theme that's being discussed quite often, but I respect this client in terms of saying, we're going to take it to a whole nother level. We're going to truly make, like it said for a while, that it's the heart of the school, but things that take place in this center of the school, Amy will really be able to speak to. It's really unique in terms of merging what takes place in a cafetorium, a library space, and a maker space, all there in the core. 8, 9, and 10, 11, all really are what allows them a true multi-purpose and to set and create the culture of the school. It's got the traditional separation of the noisy side of the house to the right, the academics to the left, and really takes advantage of the idea of placing the younger students, the pre-K and special, close to administration and the front entrance. So all those things that are true to best practices of an elementary, but as we dive into the spaces in the video, you'll see what really makes them unique. The simple adjustment of the way the classrooms set up in the academic neighborhoods. Number 5, you see the 5 commons. A subtle shift as we were looking to make sure we stay within square footage. That really is where we were able to create the efficiency, but also the function that was needed in those academic spaces. Second floor, you'll see the similar stacking of that for the academics, for the upper grade levels, 3rd through 5th, 2nd through 5th, excuse me. And then what's important to point out here is number 6, really this balcony bridge seating area that really allows the students when this upper floor to feel engaged and part of that lower level student commons. So a really key point and element, unique feature that you'll see as we move through the videos as well. Do want to say this gives you a good sense. We had these discussions very early on about that commons area and the importance of the vertical connectivity, the natural light, and being able to get that driven all the way into the center of the school. So you can see how this afforded some unique solutions as far as clear story, natural light, tree-like structure to create that environment that feels like it's part of the outdoors, but yet indoor, and really feed into that biophilic approach. What's nice is you do have the large volume, but as you move through different spaces into the maker space and then outdoors, each one of those spaces is unique because of the proportion, the scale, and the volume. So it allows administrators, teachers, students to have choice in terms of where they work, how they work, and what volumes and types of spaces they work.
Well, I'll touch base on a little bit here about the biophilic design elements. Again, it's kind of a new concept for the district. I know it's relatively new in the design community, but really what we said is, man, we want to be in touch with nature as best we can. And so we really start pulling those elements of biophilic design and really trying to address design with it, whether or not it's just the greenery in the name as you enter the building, the courtyard spaces, that outdoor thermal variability, so you can go out. The laboratory, which is that top picture you see there, that whole wall opens up and you can have indoor outdoor space. There you have the patios and balconies you'll see throughout, so there's lots of opportunities for kids to go in and out. Lots of daylighting, as Conrad just mentioned, so the shadows that play on the ground constantly changing and giving you that sense of nature and shadows changing in nature. Of course, the trees are probably the most iconic piece of it. You walk in, you're under this kind of tree canopy in the library with the caves and the dens, but you see the other elements there from both the connection with the material of the glulam beams to fill the tree, the risk and peril from that area above, the areas of refuge to get in the lions dens. And I know Amy wants to talk a little bit about what the kids think about all this.
So what's really neat about these these specific elements right here is when we were designing this building, the district really asked the kids what they wanted, and they will walk around and point out, I designed that. See those trees? That was my idea. And they own those elements, which is really exciting because as a building principal, they respect the space, and kids that come in, they tell them, we don't do that here. And so it's nice that that they respect those spaces, but they use these spaces a lot. You can walk around at any point in the day, except for maybe Star Day, and you will find kids in all of these spaces all the time doing all sorts of different things. When we first opened, I told Tim he was going to see learning on display starting day one, and he laughed at me and said, okay. First day of school, he was walking around the building, and he came, it's my favorite story, Tim. He came and said, it's not on display. And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course it is. He's like, no, it's in your face. There's learning everywhere. And they're not even quiet about it. They do not care if somebody comes into their space and asks questions. They're going to pull you into the learning and make you be a part of it. They may ask you questions, how you think about things. So they really like when people ask them questions while they're working.
Well, and that's the thing, trying to activate all those spaces. And I don't know if y'all have gotten the sense yet, but they have a pretty good leader over there and helping them do that. Amy's pretty excited about the space. She was one of the principals on the team. So we were happy that she was chosen to be the inaugural principal there. And she's done a great job with making sure that learning is both engaging, but happening throughout the building and in all areas.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our first virtual portion of the tour. You'll see here on the exterior that a large portion of this is really, again, responding to the neighborhood, the low sloping roofs, the masonry materials, the landscape. All of this is really trying to respond to the architecture of the homes surrounding it, a neighborhood school, trying to keep a low profile, even though it's a two-story building, trying to create pedestrian scale canopy and entry. Amy, you want to speak to the vestibule in that area?
Yeah, this space was designed partly for safety, but also with the community involved in mind. So we want the community to know that they are welcome to our space, obviously non-COVID times. And so you'll see that ledge right there with plugs. Whenever we have registration, we have tablets out there where parents can come up and register their kids, not having to go find a place to register because it's not the easiest to do on a phone all the time. So when you walk through, it's a welcome place, but it's also a usable place where they don't have to sign in and go through all the background check and come into the building. They can just get done what they need and be out with their day. When you come into the building, you're in the heart of the school. There's no long, dark corridor. Once those kids walk in, we play music in the morning and we have kids dancing into the building. They are all in that library. They are running to class, grabbing breakfast and going. It's a great way to enter that building every single day.
Yeah, we focus really on that center of the library wanting to be open to everything and be the heart of the building, so that no matter what hallway you were coming down, what entrance you were coming in, whether you're leaving out the back for the bus transportation or entering from the back from the bus transportation or the front, either way you're coming in and you're engaged in that major space right there.
So currently right now in the library, the kids every morning have to go check on a couple of things. We have a book fair going on. We are raising chickens. We have chickens in our library right now. They are doing morning checkout. They are doing our live video announcements that are done every morning by our students. All of those are happening every morning this week. And it seems like chaos, but it all gets done and it gets done really, really well.
What I love is when I visit, I don't think every time I visit, it's never the same. It's always changing. That space is always different. With everything being on casters, you just see it flowing even out into the common space.
So this right here is our Lions Laboratory. We did not call it a makerspace because we didn't want to define it by just a makerspace. We didn't call it a STEAM or STEM lab because we, again, didn't want it defined. It is our laboratory. It's where kids explore. So our librarian creates choice boards every month of different STEM activities, makerspace activities. Teachers use it to integrate their curriculum into different spots. These kids are actually working on a challenge that their teachers gave them that they have to do outside of class. So they are choosing their lunchtime to come in there and work on a challenge. I can't remember exactly what their challenge is, but they're working on 2 different challenges in there, competing against other kids in their grade as an extra activity. This is our outside, almost like amphitheater style space. It is turfed and part of it is covered, and we can do presentations out there. Kids often go out there if the playground's too wet and the ground is too muddy. This is a good place for them to just get some fresh air and run around. Teachers come out there, let kids read. They do presentations. They do a lot of sharing of writing out here for some reason. It's a great space to write, I guess.
And again, with that 15.5 acre property, it afforded them quite a bit of play space outside of that area.
This is our administration areas. This is our teachers' lounge. The teachers love this space. The windows that let in the natural light, you know, a lot of teachers are in rooms all day, which their rooms have windows, but they really love this space. And Tim, I like to give Tim credit for this. The sun goes above those windows at about 10:30 before lunch. So the teachers are like, that was so great that they thought about where the sun would be. And I was like, of course Tim does. He does everything. So it's a great space for teachers to relax. We purposefully did the workroom next door, not together, because we want teachers to make sure they take a break. Teachers work very, very hard, and we don't want them to have to think about, oh, I need to get this done because they can see it. So their mailboxes are in the workroom, which is just right next door, but it is a separate space so that they have defined set boundaries for themselves.
Natural light in every space we could, right?
Yes, lots and lots of white light. These are just our office areas. This is our second clinic for COVID, but it's also our in-school suspension. We don't use it very often, but we do have a few kids who make poor choices. We've got our counseling center upstairs, but our conference room down here, administrative offices. Again, this is the nurse's office. It's a beautiful space, very large nurse's office. And then, which opens up into the front office space, which you can see the security aspects, the doors shut and are locked, have to be badged in. And then we have our front desk, which is very welcoming and warm. That was one of the things that when we looked at some of the campuses, we felt like all of the elements made it kind of cold and not welcoming. Our families feel that our space is very, very welcoming. That was something that was very important to us. So this spot is going to be our pre-K, our PPCD, early childhood area. They use these outdoor spaces right here, these covered areas, every single day for different activities. They integrate music, PE into their classroom, so they use those spaces for that. They have their own little wing down here with their own presentation boards to show off their kids and their kids' work. And when you come into these rooms, every single element is designed specifically for these kids. It was not these kids fitting into a mold. It's down to the carpet that was chosen is incredibly durable and cleans up very, very easily. All of the furniture was designed to make sure it's not going to tip over, that it can be pushed, pulled, moved around. Everything was placed very, very intentionally, and the teachers were thrilled with that. So they share a space and they are integrated, completely integrated, co-taught. So they have their walls open all the time, and they use that wet area right there for science. But if you look, these kiddos they're spaced out. We didn't have to do anything special because of how large we were able to make these classrooms and move the furniture so that they don't have to have half day or be in virtual, that they were able to spread out, wear their masks, and still be safe.
Yeah, and each area, when you get into the other grade levels too, everybody has access to an outdoor patio, which is also nice. Even that younger grade level, as well as our specials, everybody has their area where they can go. You can see the door there through the window that goes out to the covered outdoor patio, so they can have some outdoor time in learning, not just in recess and those type of things.
This is one of our special education areas. This was designed for some of our students who need extra help with their verbal skills. So our next area is going to be our storm shelter. Nope. So that's our cafeteria and stage area. And then there's our community mural that you can see where our kids line up to go into our
Yeah.
amp. You can see, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to add, so this is our big mural that we're on our third one of these prototypes. So this defines the school. So each school is different. So this one was the Lions and it was in Harvest. So it felt more right to do the seed growing into a tree, but we have one in Haslett that we just opened this past year. It deals with transportation and walking and riding a bike and car to locomotive to airplane. So each of those theme walls kind of represent some of the theming of the school. As we're entering now, you're entering right through into the storm shelter. You're currently in the storm shelter now, as well as going into the gym for the storm shelter. So the control room is in here. We have the restrooms available in here, and this will fit the entire 850 student capacity plus administrative staff easily. But this is a code requirement for our region of Texas. So some of you may be familiar with this in the North Texas area. If you get down south of Waco, then you may not be familiar with the storm shelter requirements.
I thought we cut that part out. That was my child.
Yeah, that's
I don't
actually
just
Amy's son. That's not how she treats all the students.
I thought we cut that out. Another interesting point about this area is you can see the halls are wider to help with flow in and out. Specifically in the gym, one thing that we do is we have some kids with high anxiety, and one little girl told me that she gets nervous every spring and has a lot of absences because when there's a storm, she doesn't go to school. So I brought her down to the gym and explained our baffle system and how it's a tornado shelter. And she told me, you need to share this with everybody. Everybody should get to know this. And I had several kids that tell me they feel so much better about coming to school when we have bad weather because of that. They feel safer at school. So it's something we incorporate into our drill now is that information. This is our art room.
Yeah, this is my favorite spaces. I just love, I mean, we decided let's make an art room truly like an art studio. It doesn't need to look like a classroom, and lots of natural light, concrete floors, open ceiling. Let them really take the room and make it what it is with their own art as they produce it.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. Then you have our music room. It's just a very large space with lots of storage for instruments. She's got storage within the classroom as well as a storage unit right connected to the classroom. Another great element, a design element in these music rooms is that they have a door from the music room onto the stage in both music rooms. And there's a couple of different reasons we talked about this. One, for when they're doing performances, you can house the kids in the classrooms, so it's a smoother performance. The other is we use it for dismissal from our art, music, and PE to help with that traffic so that we can be more efficient, not waste time, get those kids back to class. So they exit from AMP onto the stage, they line up where their teacher is, and they go straight back to class. So it's very, very efficient. So it's got two pretty good reasons of why we did that. This is our beautiful cafeteria with our corral terrace. We use that space for a lot of different things, but the first thing we used it for was in our dedication, we used it for our choir stood up there and sang, and it was absolutely beautiful, both sound and visual. It
was, and that was something we never even thought of whenever we were designing it, that we
right
as a choir terrace. So
yeah, the storage closet, the teachers love the storage closet. They are so excited to have their own storage. This is one of our PLC rooms that we had to turn into a virtual classroom this year. So you can see how very diverse these rooms can be. They can be whatever we need them to be.
This is actually a security, that door we just went through was a security door that locks down the wings. So if we do have a situation where we have to shelter in place or protect ourselves, those doors close automatically with a lockdown and seals off the classroom wings there.
This is just the view from the library upstairs. It's just a beautiful space. I personally like to sit up there and work when I have paperwork to do, and I don't like to be in my office because I like to watch the kids. It's a great vantage point. If you ask the kids about it, they love the lights in there. Some of them say it's like raindrops. Some of them say it's like lightsabers. I think it reminds me of the old Fern Gully movie. So it's very interesting to see what the kids connected to. The kids actually sit out here and work often. You will see the kids working on those steps all the time. They also do group lunches out there for different reasons. The counselors, the teachers will move kids out there for group lunches.
You notice the space before we got into this area was up on the second floor. One of the conversations we had is every single space needs to have the ability to deliver instruction or have purpose for students to socialize or do their own focused work. And so if you were to see, get to tour this entire school, you'd see that every space really has that ability.
Every nook and cranny is used. From underneath the stairs, there's a couple of cutouts that the district would graciously put furniture in there for us so the kids can go in there and work. But you will find kids all over this, like ants, all over this building all the time. They fight over spaces. Our gifted and talented program would like to claim this space right here, but I told them that that's not a thing. Everybody has to share. And there'll be kids out there, and I've yet to see a teacher teaching a lesson there. I've only seen kids teaching each other's lessons there, which is really exciting to see. This is our gifted and talented room for our students that need to be pushed academically to give them an outlet to be creative. We have an amazing pull-out program that our kids work in, and this space allows them to do the projects that they need. They do these very large projects in every single grade level. And so they're able to spread out into the hall right here, as well as use their classroom, and you will find them all over this top floor and all those little nooks and crannies.
You have created an amazing culture. Those students have really gravitated to feeling comfortable about using, and your staff being comfortable about having students own this school.
One of my favorite things that has happened, it actually happened at the end of last year, and they've asked to make it a club for next year. A group of third grade girls last year made their own club, and they designed STEM lessons, and they worked with the librarian and then asked fifth grade teachers, because they used fifth grade TEKS, if they could present to their classes these lessons and have the kids do the projects. And we were like, of course you can. And they were good. They did a great job with them. We were real impressed that a group of third grade girls put that all together.
Here's one of those spaces being activated under the stairs with art projects. And you also saw an area. I've come in many times at the end of the day and see students there studying after school, waiting for a ride or whatever. Also wanted to point out the 3-form panels that they showed right before this had the grasses in it, the dry grasses in there. Again, just another hint and nod towards the biophilic design and putting those elements in there. The large overhangs that we have there in the front help protect against weather for dismissal, and also provides an additional shaded area that could be used during the day for curriculum.
Our music department uses that space a lot for folk dancing, their maypole lesson, and a couple of other active where she needs more space. She uses that space as well. Another thing we didn't have this year, but last year, we had a lot of parents come use our dens to study. They would call and ask if, hey, I'm having lunch with my kid. Is it all right if I come up an hour early and use the library? Can I sit in one of those dens? Because they're just really relaxing. And it made me laugh. We had one working on her bachelor's degree, and one just came up to read. It was really nice to see the community use those spaces.
It was nice in choice of material. We talked a lot about warmth and natural light and using the materials that felt comfortable and warm. Using the wood tile look on the proscenium of the stage was important to give as much warmth as we could. Same with the deck, all the different colors that we used to really reinforce that warmth.
And another key piece was, if you'll notice all the plugs up there, technology is what we do. It's everywhere. And so it also gives the kids lots of opportunity to take their technology with them. Even if it's dying, they can plug it in. Or if we have a performance, parents can plug their phone in and still record. So it gives us a lot of proactive solutions to problems we've had in the past.
So I think we're to our last stop. I'm going to do a quick introduction of this video before we get started, just to kind of center on the actual classroom spaces. And you see the diagram there that we have. I want to point out a few things. The A that you'll see, every 2 rooms shares a retractable wall. So you can see that up there in the classrooms that can join. You'll see that in the video. That is magnetic and dry erase. And so we really focused on trying to make sure there was really no head of the classroom, front of the classroom. So you can engage on all sides. There's glazing that goes into the hallways, so you can see that learning on display. There is the area B, which is a breakout space for each grade level to do presentations, to go out there and do teamwork. If you had someone from the zoo coming to talk about a little animal or something they brought with them, they could do that presentation for just like third grade or just second grade in that area. And all the students can fill that space in there. Of course, C is that space I was just talking about. B is the presentation area. At the end of that space, we have that area D, which is a small focus space. So if you had a small group that wanted to go down there and work, I think Amy can speak to this. They have great visibility of their students. So students going out there and then maybe want to go and use the marker board or our team in a little bit more quieter space than out in the hallway is certainly part of that learning on display and giving those kids that ability to go and focus in a smaller area away from the classroom, but still have that visibility. And then E is the porches that we talked about, the patios. We have them both upstairs and downstairs, as well as other large covered areas for students to break out, classrooms to break out and use those areas. So why don't we go on a tour and Amy can walk you through.
Tim, the big part of it too was furniture. A lot of discussion around furniture and flexibility and choice in furniture.
Absolutely, and we tried to make sure all our furniture was flexible and adaptable, could be moved in and out of spaces and around very easily. There's those secured doors I was talking about before. Those lock down. The training we use is a craze training. So the first thing it says is get out of the building if there's an issue, if there's an intruder. So those doors lock down, and we have the stairs in each of the each wing that allows students to get down and away from the building.
So when you enter our learning communities, the first thing you'll come to is a PLC room. Now, one we saw earlier was set up as a classroom, but this is what they look like when teachers are using them. So we don't have data or sensitive material up permanently, but the teachers have blinds where they can pull the blinds and they can put up on the TVs specific student data that they're working at with still keeping within FERPA. And then you've got the teacher storage closet for the grade level, and that's just for curriculum stuff. That's not personal storage by any means. So when you come into these collaborative, we call them quads, the kids love them. They work in them all the time. Kindergarten kids will be out there by themselves working. It's a great, great space. We're very lucky to have them. Now our glass boxes on the ends are very versatile as well. Kids can work down there independently. They can work in a small group. We have teachers do pull-out sessions in there. The counselor can do pull-out sessions. We have a couple of friends that just need quiet space to not be bothered by anyone so that they can go in there as well.
That was furniture from COVID. This is furniture that's actually.
The video was COVID because the two were sharing a desk. We had to bring an old desk, but you can see the pictures of how it's supposed to be.
Yes, and the teachers are so sad that we have to use those other desks for the rest of this year, but they loved this furniture because it was so much more versatile than the previous. So you can see how quickly the walls move, and they can open it up.
About that is they don't have to take their material off of them. The material can stay right there. They can open up, they can shut it right back in a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm. And those walls are used for many different things. We're very much into small group instruction. And so a lot of them use that space. They'll do their small group instruction in the back by the wall so that the kids can write. That grade level right there, this was last year pre-COVID, they did their morning meeting as a grade level every day. So their grade level is probably our most, our closest group because they did their morning meeting every day. We had less discipline issues. They were able to work out conflict resolution better. And they've commented many times this year that they wish they had that. This is one of our intervention rooms that we have in every quad. This is for resource, dyslexia, small group pullout, whatever we need it to be, it is what it is. So we're being closer to the students and they're not spending as much time going to where their resources are that they need to go to. The only one that's not in those is speech. These are our fabulous outdoor patios that Tim was talking to you about earlier. We do not have furnitures on ours for a couple of different reasons. We're working on getting more benches for the teachers, but we don't want kids at desks or tables out here. They can do that in the classroom in the quad. If they're coming outside, they can lay on the ground. They're okay. They can sit on the ground and they love it. That's what they want to do is when they go out there. So this is, again, back into our quad. You saw the presentation station at the front. The furniture is very easily moved. Our teachers transformed these spaces. Last week, second grade was a carnival, and they were celebrating writing through the lens of a carnival. And the teachers had, you walked in under the big top and they had animals all over. It was really very cool. And they said it was real easy because of it's so flexible.
We've said this before in our board meetings and other public discussion. The collaborative space was, at the start of COVID, it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Collaborative space is not going to get used. We used it to expand the classroom, and it actually worked quite well. You could see there was multiple students out there spread out. Here's a few
Right
more
there.
examples where you're actually able to get outside the classroom and still have that visual control. And kids love the different environments. So they sit on a lily pad and are on their knees one day, and then the next day they're at a desk, and the next day they're standing, and so on and so forth.
And one of the things I like about those glass spaces on the end is for some of our students who struggle with communication, one of our techniques is you look out and see how many things you can find in 20 seconds. And that is a calm down strategy that's very, very effective. And having those windows everywhere, kids have somewhere to look, and you're not having to go outside. You can just walk to the end of the hall or turn around to a window and have them look out the window and try to use the tools that we're teaching them. So that's another element that is very helpful in our realm.
Okay, is that the end of the presentation?
I think so.
Yeah, we'd like to open it up for questions if we could.
Great, thank you so much. That was fabulous. I know it's not easy to do a tour during this time of year, but that was that really conveyed the design and the use of the building. So we have a few questions. The first one is, can you share the video with the participants?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
So we'll make that accessible through A4LE for everybody. The second question was, were the raised platforms in the library designed as open platforms or purposely designed with the open curved structures?
They were purposely designed with the open curved structures. And in fact, we wanted these kind of nesting spots, these areas of refuge where kids could, they don't always have to be out and among other kids. They could felt like they were enclosed a little bit. And what's interesting is I wish I had a picture to show you, but the next school we did was actually, this is the Lions. So it made sense to call those Lions dens. And the next school that we did was actually the Eagles. So we took those structures and turned them upside down and made nests out of them instead of dens, which is, a neat little concept. And then the one we're building right now is actually going to be the Berkshire Bears. And so they'll go back to a similar image like this, but like a bear den, just like a lion den. So we're actually using those in different ways and different shapes. We've talked about if one day the next school was a bulldog, we could make little dog houses out of these structures. So we wanted that area to feel an area like a kid or a group of kids could go in there and read and get away, but also provide kind of an amphitheater style setting for teacher or Miss House. You saw her at one of the beginning photos reading to a whole class on the stairs. And so to be able to have that for both purposes.
Okay, since you brought it up, this is your third prototype. You just said you're building your third one. How are you capturing feedback, and do you see this prototype continuing for a long time?
I think so. The last prototype we had went about 11 cycles. We went through it for 11 builds. And I would imagine that we'd be very similar in this. I mean, I think the pedagogy today is very supportive of this. The district's desire to be collaborative, to do project-based learning, to engage students, to be on, again, learning in your face, as I like to call it, because it's just everywhere in that open format. It's worked well for us. So I imagine that will continue.
Okay, we have a question about, I don't know if you know this, Conrad, what is the manufacturer of the carpet in the classrooms?
I'm going to guess, if I can interrupt, I think they're talking about when Amy pointed out the carpet.
Yeah,
which
in
is
the special ed rooms.
The special ed, which is actually a Forbo product. It's actually a rubberized floor, and it's got like single fibers of just carpet type fiber sticking up. So it really isn't a carpet. It's more of a rubber floor that feels velvety. So it provides that cushion feel, but it also, I mean, you can't, we've tried, we've put ketchup and mustard and Sharpies on it and everything, left it for a week and come back and it'll clean real easy, which is why that's become a standard for us in all those special needs areas where you may have bodily fluid issues or spills or things that you need to take care of. So that's only specific for those areas.
Yeah,
It should also be in the Gates room.
And I see Corey, your project manager, answered it as a Forbo Flotex product. So the next question, I had it on my list, and I'm glad, Brenda, that you're asking this question too. Can you speak to the professional learning that you did with your teachers for using the new spaces for innovative instruction?
Absolutely. That was something that I was very, very intentional with. Before teachers were even allowed a tour of the building, I started sending them articles that either I wrote or I found about using different spaces differently and what is the purpose of the space. And so we had a lot of conversation about, is the space for you or is it for kids? And we talked about that first. And then we started talking about what does it mean to be collaborative? So when we hired, that was part of the interview process, was how do you use collaboration spaces? How are you with collaboration? What is your philosophy on kids collaborating? So we only hired people that understood and were willing to get on board to that collaborative idea. And then when teachers came in, we did our back to school professional development, modeling those strategies. So we did them in classrooms where we opened up the wall and we had 2 presenters on either side of the room, weaving back and forth, showing them what our expectations were. And then we do walkthroughs. We expect to see what we are saying that we're doing. We expect to see it. And you see it every single day. There's no question. Our teachers buy in hook, line, and sinker. This has been, in fact, as soon as COVID started, the first thing they said was, we're still going to figure out how to use all of our spaces. It took us a little longer to figure out how to use the laboratory through COVID than we wanted, but we did figure it out.
What makes me think of, we had all those strategic meetings and talking about how do we utilize space and what size space, all those things we talked about in the planning and design phase. And to go back now and see all the multiple different ways that y'all are using it and your staff is creating new methods and approaches to the space. It's just kind of infinite.
Yeah, it's exciting.
One other layer that I'll have Amy talk about. The second one we opened was actually an existing school. So it existed. It was a smaller campus, and we needed to move that campus into a bigger building and recapture that old smaller campus for other space. And so that principal didn't get to go pick and choose their staff that was going to be collaborative and outgoing and all these things around the school. So Amy kind of advantaged, but they came over and spent a lot of time with Amy because you had some teachers that were very used to 20 years of teaching in that kind of older building, one of the original buildings in the school district. And so Amy, speak to the effort that y'all went through with showing off that for our other campus.
Thank you, Tim. I'm glad you brought that up because they came over a couple of times in the spring before COVID, and we're watching it, and they got to see the kids do it. Kindergarten kids can do it. There's our SPED kids, our kids who are cognitively disadvantaged can do it. And we told them, we don't put barriers on students. And when you say it like that, educators are like, well, I don't either. And so when you word it like, we don't say our kids can't do that. That's not a thing we say. They bought in too. And I think it was easier for that principal when she was able to bring them over and see examples of it live. It wasn't pictures. It wasn't a video that could have been staged. It was, this is the middle of the day, come on over kind of thing. And they got to talk to our teachers about how great it is. I think one of the pieces that teachers struggled with was storage. And they were able to see, wow, they really thought about that. There's a lot of storage solutions within the classrooms, within the closets and that kind of thing. But that also you had to rethink about that because teachers are hoarders. They want to keep everything they've ever used, every piece of paper they've ever used ever. And that's not necessary. And so we've had to work on cleaning things out. And that's hard for teachers too. But it's been I think a philosophical shift in a lot of teachers' mindset of what a classroom looks like.
Yeah, and I think we had some high anxiety from our librarian as well. So she was used to 4 walls and check out every book. And we've kind of adopted a philosophy that it's an open library, and if a kid walks away with a book, is that the worst thing in the world's going to happen? I mean, that's It's okay.
And usually it's a kindergartner who didn't realize they had to check out every one of them. They were
Right.
going to bring it back.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because I was going to ask, there's people that have concern with the noise or acoustical issues when you have a space like that. How are you guys handling that? And what has this open space brought to your school?
I
So
will say that, oh, go ahead, Tim.
no, I'll talk about the design first, and then you talk about the reality. How about that?
Yeah, sounds
So it's interesting as we talked about those lines dens and those platforms. That all was designed out of a need to try to create some physical barriers between us and the cafeteria right across the hall. The 3 form panels that you saw with the grass in it that helps define a corridor and a walkway, but that's still opening enough that you can see through as you're passing through. There's some that are missing, so you can actually cut into the cafeteria. All those things were designed to specifically break up the sound waves when the cafeteria was going on. Of course, we have acoustical deck, we have acoustical panels in the cafeteria to help with that. We have acoustical panels around the library to help with that. So we tried to take all those physical elements and say, let's put as much in between us, still making it open, still making it inviting, but to help break up the sound waves. And then we crossed our fingers. And so, Amy, you can talk about how it works in real life and go from there.
And I will say the design process, we had some principals real scared.
Yep.
They wanted to fight it real hard. I'm pretty open, like, all right, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll figure something out. And I have to tell you, it's a null issue. The only time we even notice it is if we have guests on campus and we're having a meeting. It's like that your house is loud and you don't notice it's loud until you have a guest over, kind of a thing. And then we just go to a classroom and have a meeting there. But I think one of the things that goes back to is, what is your mindset? Are we doing things because it's easier for adults? Or are we doing things because it's what's best for kids? And I know logistically, we have to have staff meetings and we have to have meetings during the day on campuses, but you can figure that out. We're good problem solvers. So I think if you just really change your thinking to what's best for the kids and what fits into your philosophy of education, you'll figure it out. It'll be fine. And
Well,
that's
the other
the only
part
problem we've
that
ever had.
I've been there when lunch is going on, and it's not that loud. It's really not. You hear kind of a white noise background. The other thing to point out is we have the laboratory or the makerspace piece that can close off. So if you need to take a small group in there, you can. And we didn't really point it out in the video. There's 2 side rooms that are also like those focus rooms on either side of that laboratory that also close off. So if you had a small group of 6 to 8, 8 may be pushing it, but somewhere around 6, you could enter those small spaces and shut the glass door behind you and still be okay.
But we have meetings all the time during lunch in the laboratory because that's where people want to be, or in the library because that's where people want to be. It doesn't bother us
Not an issue.
at all. It's only an issue as if somebody's coming from a place where they think libraries are supposed to be quiet. Our library is not quiet ever. Like I said,
So
we have chickens in there right now.
So we have a couple more questions before we wrap up. One of them, since you're speaking to sound, are the colorful ceiling cloud sound panels? Yes, I see Conrad nodding. Yes, they are.
Yes.
And then, and Amy, you talked about some articles that you shared with your teachers to get them thinking and opening their mind. Is it possible to share those when you share the video as well?
If you could give me a little bit of time to go find them, I sure can. I lost my computer last summer, remote from home, a cup of chocolate milk. It's fine. But there's a book, and Tim, you might remember, it's a red and white book that we looked at.
The third teacher,
The
I think,
teacher.
is one of
The
the
third teacher, that was one that we used a lot of. That was the basis of what I worked with them, but I can look and see if I can find those articles. And I can also share my blog with anybody that's interested in it.
Okay, great. That would be great.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. One last question. The furniture obviously played a key role in the design of the building. Was that done, the furniture selection done early on as part of the design, or so that was all at the same time?
Kind of. I want to say, Tim, this is probably my favorite thing about Tim is he listens to teachers. We used the furniture that was used in that early design, and then there were some problems that we couldn't figure out, and Tim came in and we met and we talked to teachers and he got more feedback, and then all of a sudden new furniture showed up. And so it was really nice that the district listened to the solutions that we needed, and they knew going in we were going to have to come up with solutions. We just didn't know what the need was going to be yet. but most of it was from the beginning.
Yeah, I will say we set up a gym over the summer, and we had multiple desks, multiple chairs, multiple teachers' desks, multiple teachers' chairs, students and teachers alike. And we actually had students and teachers come in for about a month and do a survey and sit and stuff and play with it. And then we had a little drop box, and it was all anonymous. So that was, it was a small sampling, but it was at least a sampling to help us guide the direction. And then we made some adjustments. But the idea of the furniture was absolutely a part of the design process.
Yeah, we did furniture layouts from the very beginning with our furniture specialists in our firm. So co-working with Tim and others.
Yeah, the specific pieces came later, but the intent was there all along.
The layouts.
I have a more concrete question. How long was the project duration, you know, pre-design all the way to construction? How long did it take?
Conrad, you want me to go?
Well, you go ahead. We had a longer planning
Yeah.
session, Tim. I mean, that's something that you had wanted.
Right. I think we did not want to rush that, being that we were going to start over with a new prototype. And you heard us talk about how many different people we engaged. We did tours. We went to Austin, went to children's museums to see museum elements, to see how do we integrate that into our design areas. And we had some great ideas, and some of them kind of got abandoned along the way and for budget reasons and other things. But I think the planning piece, I want to say we probably spent about a year with the planning and design, which is maybe a few months more, maybe about 14 months, because we were doing student interviews and just really capturing a lot of stuff. So the planning piece alone was probably 4 to 5 months, I think.
Yeah, we were almost 6 months, Tim.
Okay, thank you. So 6 months there, and then the construction time, I think, was a 13-month construction is about what we try to average. 14 months is what Corey's saying. So,
Yeah, Corey's there to correct us all. No,
Right.
just kidding. And one last question. You're such a strong inclusion of biophilic elements. Is that being included in all your other prototypes? And is it treated a little differently based on the theme?
It is. And so, like I said, the library seems to be the bulk of it. We talked about the eagle's nest, and we've started the lion's den was very green and lush, like they were dens in a prairie. The eagle's nest has a little bit more rockiness to it. The materials and the colors are more gray and stone, like it's on a mountain. The bears is really cool. We've switched, and instead of the clouds, we're actually doing pine tree like acoustical panels coming off the trees, so it looks like a pine tree. And we're actually putting in a constellation up in the ceiling that can be turned on and off. So if you're out there, camping with the bears, you can look at the constellation and stuff. So we're trying
I want that.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to tell you about that, Amy. Sorry. So we're trying to up that or change it and make it unique. Along with we work with the Huckabee with changing the outside design, the facade, the color schemes, all those things. So each campus, even though it's a similar layout and a prototypical layout, does have some uniqueness about it.
Yeah, this is a new bent on reciting prototypes for sure.
Yeah, and the big graphic wall, like I said, changes every time too. We work with and the logoing throughout. We work with the principals and our curriculum folks to brand what sayings go where and where those logos go and where those topics are throughout the building, the graphics.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the great presentation, excellent project. Everybody can now see why this project earned the Caudell Award. I was one of the jurors. I'm going to go back and change that community one for you, Tim. I
you.
do believe in hearing everything that totally makes it feel like it is absolutely a community building. So we thank you again. Again, the foundation is excited to be doing these. This is the last of our series this year. We will see everybody again next spring.
All right.
You so
Thank
much.
you. And thanks to A4LE. Appreciate you.
Thank you.